Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Devil's Advocate Trades Edition with your host, Lisa McGrath, myself. And today I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Sonia Perron, and she is with, I guess, would you call it Spectate or just SPCTE?
SPCTE.
Okay, Inc. So Sonia is incredibly interesting on what her take is and what she's doing with her time. And I think a lot of employers would benefit for having someone like Sonia come into their establishments and help them with their staff and themselves. So we're going to go through what she does and why. So welcome to the show, Sonia. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. A pleasure for me to be here with you today.
Yeah, you and I have been chit-chatting for a while now. We originally met on LinkedIn. Is that right? It wasn't LinkedIn. It was Alignable.
True, Alignable. Yes.
Yes, that's right. So, you're in Canada as well. You're in Montreal.
I'm actually in the Eastern Township, in Quebec. So I'm like 5 minutes away from the U.S. border.
Oh, wow. C'est proche.
C'est proche, yes.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your company and what you do, all that SPCTE does.
Okay, so when I was really young, like 5-year-old, it was clear to me that my mission was about people. I was really passionate about people. And every time I was meeting someone, it was like a person, like a candy, but it's a person, because I found that each person was like an encyclopedia by itself. Everyone has like experience, knowledge, feelings, perceptions, very, very different. And so we're all unique. Mm-hmm. And through my school, I was fighting with the teachers every time they were using the word different, because I was saying, if we're all different, can we say we're unique instead? So uniqueness was something that I really believed in. And when I started working, I'm an empath. And I'm really, I observe a lot. So when I was working, I was coming home and I was crying, literally crying, because I couldn't believe that human beings were creating work environment where people were so unwell.
Yeah.
And, back in the day, I will say my age, I'm going to be 59. So it's been a very long time. And people were saying, I don't like my job. I just need to have a paycheck. Oh, my boss is like this. And, people on the top, they never ask us about, I don't have decision. I'm not empowered to do my job. Mm-hmm. So all those things were said. And today we still hear the same things.
Yep. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. So my quest was, how can I create something where we'll be able to recognize that uniqueness of each individual? And by doing so, they will be hyper performant, well, at the same time, and everybody will benefit from it, the business and the person. So that has been my quest. So what I'm doing is I just launched a book that I co-write with my daughter, which is something really magical for me. And it's a new business model. It's called, in English, it will be Cell Era. So the era of the human cell. And in French is cellulaire. So the English version will come this summer. And in the heart of that model is our philosophy. So if you want to know more about our philosophy, we can put a link in when we'll launch the podcast to our free ebook, which is Aligned to Succeed. So we're the only business in the French world, I will say, using the 3 parts of the mind to really align people on their potential. By doing that, without any efforts at all, you can increase productivity by up to 300%. And we have proof. And people are just feeling great. And there's no effort at all. Mm-hmm. And it's really quick. So I'm like a kid, the kids in the car. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? I'm like that, so I want quick results. So all my life, I've been looking for creating, innovating to have quick results without efforts and making really the people feeling well and being hyper productive.
Okay. I think that's a great thing. But so if I understand this correctly, you and your daughter have taken this method that I know what it is, and I'll let you say what it is, but you've taken this method and you've put it into, you basically converted it into French?
No, we created a business model, a new business model based on sociocracy, but it used at the heart of that model, there is the 3 parts of the mind, which we're doing.
Okay, because I know that there's a couple of companies that use the model as well. I don't believe they've gone through you to do it, but I know that I know that it's not something that is not recognized, but it's just not recognized enough. People are too busy. It's always the quick, like what's quick, what's going to cost us. People need to invest in their people and understanding. It's like what we're talking about now with mental health and different types of like isms like ADHD and autism and all these different things that are coming out. If we just took the time to understand what kind of person we're dealing with in their mind, then it would be easier to assign tasks and how they're going to do it and what their method would be, so that there's not, because people are always questioning. I always say there's more than one way to skin a cat, but some people will say, well, no, you got to do it this way. But if this person's brain doesn't understand what you're doing it or why you're doing it that way, because there are some people, like especially in autism, if you do something out of an alignment of sorts, the way that, because they're very structured, they kind of like, they go like absolutely crazy. Like it makes them crazy when to watch you do something and they're like, what are you doing? And like their anxiety rises. And then like, that's not good work performance, but that could be in a workplace. That doesn't have to be at home. That can be anywhere. So if you're not understanding your people and how they learn and how they function, then how do you provide optimal, or optimization inside your business? It's almost impossible. You have a few people that might be able to do it, but the majority aren't. So,
and that's a good point, because usually, if we go back in time, knowledge was power.
It is.
So, and the knowledge is the cognitive part of the mind. Yep. So we created all the system, everything based on knowledge. But knowledge is one part of your mind. And there are 3, and they work together. Okay. The second part of the mind is affective. And if you remember 40, I don't know if you were there, but 40 years ago, like affective tests appeared in the working place, like DISC, Myers-Briggs, to know, about your managers, how they work. Yeah. But those affective tests are good for 3 months.
Okay.
Because it depends on how you feel that day, what's going on in your life. Like you won't have the same results if you're a mom for the first time, or if you get married, or if you're at school, or if you're at your third job, if you're 40, if you're divorcing, so that can change the results. But the affective, the tests are mostly about preference, but there are many more elements into the affective part of the mind that we're not even using. And in the cognitive part of the mind, even if we're using it at work, we're not even using it fully. And then there's the third part of the mind, which is the conative part, which not many people know about it. But you know what? It was discovered at the same time of the other 3. So that of the other 2, which is Aristotle, you say in English, Aristotle in French?
Aristotle, correct.
So it's very, very old. We knew about it, but we decided to ignore it. But the instinct to act, or the conative part, is something you're born with it and you die with it. So you have it all your life. So if you're testing your conative part of the mind, it's good for your whole life. And there are incredible information coming out of that. That part of the mind is the one managing your mental energy. Have you ever felt mentally fatigued?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everybody says yes. But if you know about your conative part, you won't be mentally fatigued for the rest of your life.
Really?
What about that? Really?
Huh.
If you apply your recipe, won't have any trouble. First thing. Second thing, it gives you your natural talent. You didn't have to go to school to have that talent. It's a natural one. And then your natural strengths. There are 12 of them, and 4 are yours.
Mm-hmm.
But as a human being, we can do all 12. But when we're not in our own strength, we get mentally fatigued because we're adapting.
Mm-hmm.
But we're able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other information, which is key
Mm-hmm.
for couples, families, team,
Mm-hmm.
colleagues, is your process to make a decision or your process to solve a problem. And this is what we do
Mm-hmm.
with other people. So all that information is key, really,
Mm-hmm.
to learn more about yourself and being healthy, and also to work better with others.
So I'm going to ask you a question. I find that
Yes.
really interesting what you said. And I think that it's absolutely necessary in industry, especially when you have, more than a couple of staff running around. You need something like this to understand your people. But this is where my question comes in. What happens if you have somebody that is very decisive in their work, but not very decisive on the outside of things? So like if they're like, oh, well, we're going to do a team building, blah, blah, blah. It's after work. It's not mandatory, but they flip-flop. But when it's work, it's like right now they have the decisions made and they're going. So how does that work for somebody when on their personal side, they flip-flop, but on their business side, they're very decisive, or even vice versa? What does that usually entail in a personality aspect? How do you work around that is it almost like you have to use the word mandatory for them in order? Is it like the verbiage that's being utilized?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
Because, if something is not mandatory,
Mm-hmm.
then it's the question about first, are they interested?
Mm-hmm.
And do they have the capacity? Like if I have kids and it's at night, probably I won't go.
Yeah.
But there are many things to consider.
Okay.
So it's, and that person that's very decisive at work, maybe it's her way of doing things, or maybe she's out of her comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And she's acting like that
Mm-hmm.
because she's out of her zone. And there's many factors creating that.
So,
but it's like there's so many answers I can give you.
I'm asking. I'm curious because I'm talking about my mom. So I love my mom to death. She's amazing. She's now retired, but when she worked, she made decisions left, right, and center. It was like split second thinking. She worked in the healthcare, region, and she did amazing. But when it came to like home and this and that, it was like flip flop, wishy-washy. And then there's me, who I'm like decisive at work and at home. I'm not sitting there second guessing when I'm not like, most of the time I'm like, let me just check my schedule. Yeah, that works. No problem. Sounds good. We'll do that. I'll have this and this and this and this ready. So I don't have a problem. I'm almost kind of like the polar opposite of her, where I'm almost like impulse. Like it's like, yep. Like shoot.
Let's do it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just jump. And then so we're opposite that way. I just always chalked it up to like horoscope. Like she's a Cancer and I'm an Aries.
Well, it could be many things, It could be that maybe in reality she is like how she is at home.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the pressure at work, and she's been learning
Mm-hmm.
that if she makes a decision, it's better, or it's her role, she's paid to do that.
Possibly.
Or there's so many answers to that. It could be that when she's home, she's so tired of making decisions that she's not even. Mm-hmm. So there's many things you could look at.
Well, she's kind of popular at work. She's popular all the time. I always tell people, if you don't like my mom, there's probably something wrong with you, because she likes everybody. She's like, I call her a puppy. So because she's so happy all the time and so cute. So, but she was very well respected in her line of work, and she still has very good friends of hers that she worked with throughout her 45 years of being in service, with the hospitals and whatnot. And she has maintained those friendships. So I know that she was good at her job and she did really well as a leader of sorts. But when it comes to like, even like now, I'm like, Mom, do you want to do this? Maybe. I'm like, Mom, come on. So, but I just always find it really interesting when you have people like that, right? So that there's two different sides of them, and people can be very complicated. Now, I will say, when you talked about the Myers-Briggs test, I was like, oh my God, like right on the money, because before I had kids, I was the commander. After I had kids and went through my separation, I was then the antagonist, and then, or the protagonist. Sorry, not the antagonist, the protagonist was the wrong word. And then now I went back and I did it. And I don't remember what I came back with, but it was like,
another one.
It was another one. It was like a leader of sorts. Yeah.
So effective part of the mind, as I say, the preference is really, that's good for 3 months. If you take a cognitive test, like IQ test, whatever, that will be for 1, maximum 3 years, because we're evolving and we're learning all the time, knowledge, and emotion. It's like, it changes every day. And, I played with some tests. I did some tests. I said, I wanted that result, and I had it. And, so there's a way to play around, because it's about questions and I can ask you some questions and figure out your Myers-Briggs, easily by asking some questions, because it's your preference. So it's easy to say. As for the instinct, when I did my test, when I did my test and I saw the results, was like, oh, I never could have said anything that was in that test. I couldn't have said what were my strengths, my natural talent, my recipe for my mental energy, my process. I didn't know. But when I see it, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. That's the way it is. And when I don't go this way, it's not working for me.
Yeah. So it's like going against the grain when you don't do it. Got it.
Yes. Yeah. But it's something we haven't learned. We've never heard about it, and we don't know. So as a company, what we do is we align to succeed. So we start with people, and we start with 2 workshops where we demystify the 3 parts of the mind. And we're using only one test, which is the Kolbe test, which is the cognitive part of the mind. By the way, there's only one test measuring that in the whole world. Okay. So it was created by Kathy Kolbe. And, so we're using this because nobody knows about it, or not much people know about it. So we're using that test, but we're really going through the 3 parts of the mind, and each part has an important effect on your job. And you should consider the 3 parts of the mind when you're hiring someone, or even you as yourself when you're looking for a job. Yeah. So we're demystifying that with games. A lot of experiment, people love it. And there's really, right when we do that, the day we do it, you have an increase of productivity, 10% to 15%, just one workshop. Okay. And you also have wellness, a big improvement right away.
So you and I were talking, and you said you've done some podcasts. How many have you done?
That's my 3rd one.
This one's your 3rd?
Yes.
Okay. Have you done anything fun on the other ones?
If I did things fun, it was more about chatting, actually.
Oh, was it more? Oh, well, that's good. So did you figure out what kind of people you were dealing with when you were just chatting with them? Because, I mean, this is something you do.
I really can't figure out the cognitive part of the mind.
Oh, that's fine.
No, I can't. Because I'm going to explain why I can't. Okay. It's because when you go to school is done for 4 strengths. Okay. For example, the instinct to probe, there's 4 instincts, but the instinct to probe the information, at school, you learn to specify, you learn to put details. When you write an essay, they tell you should put more adjectives and, put more text and blah, blah. So they want you to specify and research. Okay. But that's one strength. There are 2 others. Okay. So when you go to school, your behavior, you learn to behave a certain way. And actually, school is not done. It's perfect for maybe 5% of the people, but the other ones were struggling in a way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're going out of school, you learn to put a lot of details. And I remember at one point, one person, I was so sure her strength was precise, but it wasn't that. She was summarizing actually the opposite. But she learned to do that. And she was so tired when she was writing reports or, she was really, really stressed and anxious because of that. So I cannot do that part of the mind without the test.
That's
I
fair.
can't. Nobody can.
Yeah.
Can. So as for the affective part, when you talk with people, you can see if they're introverted, extroverted, like you're extroverted, easy. As the last letter, the J or the P is, it's really easy to know because you just have to ask the person. When you go on vacation, do you like to prepare your trip before, or you just go and you just go with the flow?
Oh, yeah, I have to be prepared.
So you're a J. That's your last letter. So E and J. So within a few minutes, I know that, and we can go deeper for the other letters. But and as for the cognitive, there's so many things people know, but you can ask questions and it's easy to see if people know about something or not.
So do you know, what does the J stand for?
I don't remember, but I know it's structure. P is more navigating. That's my letter.
So is it like passive? So there's assertive in English, because I don't know if you're operative, you got to go through the both, right? So in English, there's assertive, and then there's like assertive turbulent, and then
that's the last letter.
So so it's like AT, so it's usually like T, which would be turbulent, which means you're kind of like erratic, right? So it's like
okay, maybe the letters I have is in French. That's why.
Okay, hang on one. Let's look, shall we?
Shall we do it?
Because I'm all about
because the first one is introverted or extroverted.
That's right. So it's I or E. I or E. That's correct.
So
everyone's so fascinated by these things that I know that if we get them right, then they'll stay and listen, and then maybe they'll hire you, Sonia. Okay.
So last letters in French are N or P, J or P.
Okay, donnez une minute, je vais regarder. Okay. 16 personalities. Yeah, we know. We don't care. What do they mean? Utilizing Myers-Briggs? Here we go. Let's see. It's going to come up. So it's got E for extrovert, I for introvert, S for sensing, N for intuition, T for thinking, F for feeling, J for judging, and P for perceiving. So J.
Okay, so that's the last letter. J is for
judging.
This is the letter that when people like structure, usually they have a J.
Oh, I don't think I'm very judgy.
Well, it doesn't mean it's not that meaning. Yeah.
But it's funny because a lot of us will think that we're like, what do you mean? I'm not judgmental. And then, but then you put me with my best friend and I'm pretty judgy, So whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. But you see, you can figure it out. And the first classes that were done for the emotional intelligence at work, they were using Myers-Briggs actually to see if one person, the emotional intelligence is when you're able to see that a person is behaving a certain way, but because she's out of her comfort zone, she's not acting as herself. So that's the goal, underneath all of that. And the first classes I took that was about using Myers-Briggs to know, this person is extroverted, but she's now introverted. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was looking at the different types because there's so many. And like you said, there's 3 parts of the mind. And so Myers-Briggs, like you said, although maybe accurate in that moment, you need to revamp again because based on experiences, what's going on in your life and all of the different things is going to change. There's a better possibility that there's going to be change. So that's really good because some people might be running around here 10 years later thinking they're a commander and they're not.
Yeah. So, so the effective part of the mind, what you need to understand is you can invest in tests, but they're good only for 3 months.
Okay.
They might be good for a longer time, but what they say in the studies is about 3
Do you know what I find interesting? Well, do you know what I find interesting, Sonia, is that so many people like taking quizzes. Like when you're older and it's about yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like nobody likes taking quizzes when you're younger because they're just like, oh, we have a test today. And everyone's like, but when it's like, take a quiz to find out who your love is, take a quiz to find out how smart you are. Everyone's like, yes. So these are great things to do. I think like I don't deter people from finding out more about themselves. And I know you and I have talked and I'm like, listen, I want to do this. It's not that I don't want to do it. I want to do it, but it is an investment. It's not ridiculously priced, but it is an investment. So
yes, but if you think about like a whole business, okay, the return on investment is really, really quick. A few examples. I had a leadership team. It were 7.
Okay.
When they worked together in a board of director, they were meeting for 3 hours and they were going over 1-2 topics and they solved 1-2 topics.
Okay.
After doing 2 workshops with me, they were doing 6 to 9 in an hour and a half.
Okay.
So calculate it as you wish, but it's a big, big, big improvement in productivity.
Absolutely.
So there's because being yourself, you don't have any stress. You don't have any conflicts. We're removing stress, anxiety caused by situations. Okay. We're removing conflicts and non-productivity because each of those 3 can be caused by 1, 2, or 3 parts of the mind. But we don't know about it. Do you know that you can have a conflict with someone because of your instincts? Well, we don't know.
Yeah.
I had in my team at one point 2 people that couldn't work together. And then we sat together and I explained to them why. And they became best friends and they had strategy to work together. So the idea is you have to be yourself. And they say, the liberty of one person stops when the liberty of the other person starts. So the frontier between the 2 people is to have strategies to be yourself and work together as being yourself, not to compromise or change.
Okay.
You just need strategies.
Agreed. Now, with that being said, not all people are going to be able to work together. They're going to be too different.
My husband and I almost divorced.
Okay.
And the test saved us.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Really. We've been together like for more than 20 years now, but at the time it was like 15 years and we bought a house and we stripped the house and it was major renovation.
Yeah.
So, and we never had a fight. Sometimes we don't agree, but we agree to disagree. And, we're not fighting, yelling or anything. So we start working on that big project together. And you've seen the movie Gremlins?
Yes.
The bad one with the cigars?
Yes.
Yeah, we became that. We became that. Yeah. So we're not really fun. We were really, we became the worst version of ourselves working together. And we couldn't stand each other. And I looked at my husband at one point. I said, okay, time out, stop it. I want you to do that test. So it came out that our process is so different when we resolve problems that we can work on the same task we can work together, but never on the same task.
Mhm.
That's the strategy.
Okay.
And that's what we did all our life. We never had any trouble.
Okay.
But during the big renovation, we were doing exactly the same task at the same time.
Okay.
But our way to do it was so different that it didn't match.
Mhm.
So we laughed about it a lot,
Mhm.
and it broke everything that was bad.
Mhm.
We became ourselves again. And then we found ways to work differently.
Okay. I think that's a great thing. Now, here's my other question for you, because I gotta ask the questions. What happens if you have people who are just in general entitled people, or people who don't want to take accountability for things that go sideways? So you can do a project with them, but if something isn't done correctly after you've done this test, I'm not saying nothing bad about the test, but let's just say I'm looking at other aspects, right? Because I know that people are emotional beings to begin with. But if you have the ingredients for these two people to work together, and for the most part they do, but then when something goes sideways, one takes zero accountability and feels entitled to take all of the praise when things go right, whereas the other person is not like that, which comes back to a conflict. So how do we work around that, or can we work around that with these types of... Okay.
Yes, I'm thinking. So this is related to values.
Okay.
Actually, which is the affective part of the mind.
Okay.
So if they have different values,
yeah,
they need to find an agreement to work together.
Mhm.
They will never be close friends.
Mhm. Okay.
But they could find a way to be professional and work and have a contract between the two,
Mhm.
To work it out.
Mhm.
It's you can do that.
Okay.
Because you can have conflict because of the affective part is really about the values.
Mhm.
And if you take the cognitive part, it's because you have an ideology that's very different.
Mhm.
Like in the United States, people voting, you have the Democrat and the others.
Mhm.
So they're in conflicts.
Okay.
And then you can have conflicts also because of your cognitive part,
Mhm.
because you're at the opposite of the other with your strength.
Okay.
So you can have conflicts for many reasons. It could be 1, 2, 3 of them at the same time.
Okay. Makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, I always look at things because from a bigger perspective, although this would be a great ROI and employers should do it just for the health of their staff and their company, at the same time, there's also work that has to be done. Not only are you doing these tests, but then you have to be able to make sure people have the support they need to understand what the test results mean, and how they can work together and work with each other, knowing what these are. Right?
That's what we do with the workshop.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
It's where, the fun fact is, because we know the 3 parts of the mind of everybody,
Mhm.
working with them is accelerated because of that.
Mhm.
So implementing in the business, managing with the 3 parts of the mind, how to train people, because you have that information, you know how to train them, how to onboard them. So change management goes faster.
Yeah.
Onboarding people goes faster.
Mhm.
And then we're aligning the structure as well with the mission and the values. But because we know each individual, their strength, our project with them goes so fast.
Okay.
It's like, oh my God, we've done all of this, because we're putting the right people in the right projects,
Mhm.
or the
That's
right
good.
people in the right seats.
Yeah.
And sometimes, the problem with the company right now, and forever it has been like that. You have a company and we say, okay, I have that role. And then you take a human being and you try to fit it in.
Yeah.
But most of the time it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So if you're hiring someone using the 3 parts of the mind, then the fit will be there. But we're not doing that.
Mhm.
So inside your company, when we work with you, maybe we'll find out that someone is not really doing things his way,
Mhm.
and we'll find out ways to adapt the job or change some task, or we'll do it differently.
Mhm.
And then, you'll have an incredible increase in productivity.
Mhm.
There's a study in London
Mm-hmm.
About procrastination at work that shows that 55 minutes a day is the time people procrastinate.
Oh, that's all?
So that's 5 hours a week. If you have 20 employees, it's 100 hours you pay without having any output.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
it is.
And procrastination can happen because of the 3 parts of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, understanding the people that you hire is essential. And it's unfortunate in today's society because there's so many people that pad their resumes. So you're trying to take them at face value, but it's almost like, sure, you want to be a part of this, take this test.
Mm.
You know, because not just relationship wise and understanding how they do tasks, but also there's like an aspect of knowledge where they, you know, some companies can have them so that they understand where they sit, but then they also, it's almost like companies need to have a testing to ensure that everything that's being said on their resume is accurate.
Yes. And at the end of the day, you know, when we look at a resume, we only recognize the degree you have at school or what you learn in a school or an institution. But the thing is, if I take myself, when I was 5, my parents were taking dance classes.
Okay.
So I was going with them on Sundays, sitting on a chair, waiting, and going home. So after 2 months, my mom and dad, like every Sunday before the class, they were fighting over their steps.
Mm-hmm.
So I stood up and I said, Mom and Dad, you're both wrong. Mom, this is your steps. Dad, this is your steps.
Mm-hmm.
And when we came to school, the teacher made me dance all the ladies' steps and all the men's steps. I knew everything, just sitting there and watching. But do you think that if I put that in my resume, people will recognize that I could train?
Yeah. I guess they would.
They
Well, yeah,
wouldn't.
if you didn't put it in your resume, they wouldn't know.
No, but even if I put that, they wouldn't recognize it.
Correct.
But I, you know, so there's so many things we know
Mm-hmm.
and we learn by experience.
Yeah.
But because it's not coming from a school with a stamps, that you're missing a lot of information. So let's say that you have a company in construction, but you have somebody that's working in the office.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a new project, and that person knows about this because she did that with her father at one point in time, or his father.
Mm-hmm.
And she raised her hand. Nobody will take that into consideration because,
I mean, not everybody. More so now, there's more recognition because of what's happening in multiple industries, not just construction. But in multiple industries, what's happening is people are bouncing from company to company, doing maybe 6 months of work, not really learning what they need to learn at a proficient level, but claiming proficiency and then going in. So what's happening is you've got someone who's, like you said, sitting at the desk, does a 9 to 5, whatever. And then all of a sudden there's a new project that comes in, but they did this for years on the farm. When they go back in the summer, they've been doing this for years. And they're like, oh, I know how to do that. And and so all you have to do is just walk over and talk to them and say, okay, what do you know about it? And they'll ramble off whatever they need to do, whatever they need to say, which will be confirmation that they have comprehension of it. Mm-hmm. So then it's, but you're right. A lot of times, like for me, I always get people that say to me, I've got tons of certifications and designations. And people are like, oh, Lisa, you're an overachiever. I'm like, nope, I'm just catching up to basically solidify my experience, because nobody will look at me if I say, I know how to do that. I've done it for 10 years. So I have to go get the little piece of paper that says she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people do have that piece of paper, but they don't know what they're talking about.
True. That's very true.
That's another story. But what I'm saying is, it's like, I remember that we did chat about it, but let's say that you have a person working on the field in construction, and at one point they come into the office. If you know their natural strengths, why can you create a job that fits that strength and having people around that person and making a team? Let's say that you have one assistant, 3 person in the office, but one assistant. And because you have that, they're doing the job of 4 director, but you only have 3 of them. There's an assistant, and you have an efficient team doing the work.
Yeah.
So you have to be open-minded to do things differently.
Agreed.
Because we always say, oh, we need a person that does that. And sometimes I look at job description. When I look at them, I say, it's not working because the strength you need for that, there's too many strengths. A person has 4. But people don't know about it.
It's true. Yeah. No, that's...
And it's sad.
Yeah.
And this is why people don't like their job. You know, you're tired. Like in my team, when Christmas comes, it's like, oh, it's Christmas. Oh, yeah. Oh, we have to take vacation. Well, yes, because everybody's taking vacation. Oh, okay. No, we're never tired.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's Friday. Huh? It's already Friday. We don't feel Friday. We don't, because we're not tired. We're just...
Yeah, I get you're where you need to be. So you're constantly regulated.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that should sell itself, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you know, and we guarantee, I mean, we guarantee quick results. You know, after one workshop, wellness will be higher. You'll understand so many things, and you will see increase in productivity 10 to 15% the day after. It's going very, very fast, and you have the results, and it's not costing that much when you look at it.
Oh yeah, it'd be a drop in the bucket.
Return on investment, you have it like within 3 months, you have your return on investment and less, but maximum 3 months.
So have you checked back with those companies that you've worked with in the past and to see if they're still at their optimal output?
Yes, if you are still using the 3 parts of the mind in the system of hiring, and if everybody is, I have one company, they're so funny. People are going around with their report, you know, in each meeting, and they start their meeting by saying, okay, so this is how we have a tool that we give them, but they all know the strengths in everybody's, you know, process, and they know how to work together.
Okay.
You know, one example I can say is like when somebody starts her or his process with systematize, most of the time those people, you look at them and you think they're not engaged because they just take a step back. But the thing is, they cannot start their process because everybody else is doing things and they cannot start with their own. So there's many things you can learn from that workshop that makes a huge difference in the work environment and in the team. And I think the best thing people say about that workshop is it really redefine what a human being is supposed to be.
I love that. That's good. I love that. Yeah. Well, and it's important.
The company is gaining out of it so much.
Well, you know, I mean, if you're going to invest in people, and I mean, we all know that, overturn is it's expensive. And nobody wants that, right? Your turnover when you're having, a revolving door of people coming in and out, and then the training and the day you got to spend with them and blah, blah, blah. It's all costs. And if we can minimize that by how we maneuver our, like you said, like your onboarding, especially when you're, when you have the 3 parts of the mind and go somewhere like your company, to go through all of these workshops, then it's going to be a return on investment at the end of the day for you to make sure you're hiring the right people in the right places, but more so the right places, because people are people, and you could hire 20 of them and they could have not as much experience in your industry, but they could be very smart in different avenues of tasks that you require in different parts of your business. And then just learning the system is all they need to do, because people actually like learning. Most people like learning. And there are a lot of people that like teaching. So it's just a matter of finding the ones that like teaching. And then the ones that like teaching usually have people that want to learn, because if you don't like teaching, it comes through. right? Like you said, you can just, it's almost like if someone's talking, they could seem like they're very engaged, but they're not. And there's a lot of people that can pick up on that energy and be like,
Yes, and sometimes someone, and this is a warning, the 3 parts of the mind work together. So sometimes you can have somebody that loves teaching, have knowledge, but their instinct doesn't go with it.
Oh.
So, for example, I will take myself.
Okay.
I love cooking.
Okay.
I have some knowledge, but I couldn't be a chef because my instinct not working at all with that. But I cook and I do it my way. So I'm not a chef, and I can never do the same recipe twice. But that's the way I'm cooking. And a chef is like measuring every ingredient, and it's always has to taste the same thing. So I couldn't be a chef. And I have an example about somebody that in my hiring process, Richard. So Richard, I had a sales position open. So Richard went through the process, and then we did the cognitive test. And then when I received the result, I was like, oh my God, never knew the person. You know, I'm the last one to see in the process. But I called Richard. I said, hi, Richard, I'm Sonia. I'm the owner of SBCT. You know, you just apply for that position. I received your test result, and I would really like to take a coffee with you. So I drove an hour and a half to meet the person. Never, you know, I wasn't going to hire that person, but I sat with him and I said, Richard, my first question would be weird, but have you been tired all your life? I said, you're a witch? And he told me that he had chronic fatigue. It was diagnosed 15 years ago. So I told him, I'm going to show you why. So he loved sales. He had all the knowledge, but he was adapting in 4 of his instincts. He was adapting. And I called him a year later. And I said, how are you doing? He said, oh, Sonia, I wish I had known you before. He had changed job. He had hobbies, which he never had before, and he was never tired.
Wow.
So I have a lot of stories like that, you know, like the other day we did a sales team, and 3 days after the first workshop, the person Cynthia called me, and she said, you know what? I want to thank you because I have no more anxiety and stress at work. I feel so much better.
That's
thank
amazing.
you. So we have all those amazing results all the time. Yeah.
So let me ask you something. Is this something we can do with kids too?
In English, yes, you can do that with kids. Yes. In French, the test is not available yet.
Okay.
But in English, yes, you can.
Okay.
It's good for families. I did a few families.
Okay.
I did help. Yeah. And what we discovered, and I think it's important to say that, because you talked about that at the beginning, is that people with having trouble with some mental disease, knowing about the 3 parts of the mind for them and their family or circle of support is making a huge difference for them. Because all the triggers you have because of the human you are without any disease, just as a human being. Everybody will know about those triggers and will know how you work as a human being. So
that's a good point.
It's really helping a lot because it's removed a lot of conflicts and stress for them, which is situational stress. And those people having those disease don't have time really to take care of the situational stress because they all their focus is on the sickness. So it's really helping them. And when we do a workshop with those people, what they say at the end is they cry most of the time. They say, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm part of the team or I'm part of the group. And so it makes a huge difference for them. So they can be on their sweet spot and they can see clearly when they have to give attention to their illness. And so I don't know if I'm using the proper words, but my apologies if ever I'm using the wrong word. Sorry about that. So it's really making a huge difference for them.
Mm-hmm.
So as a philanthropy project every year, we work with families having a member,
Mm-hmm.
and we're having our project first week of May with a few families. So we do that every year to help them.
Mm-hmm.
It's out of the business, something we're doing, but it's really helping them.
Okay. I'm just looking up something real quick because, I mean, let's see. I think they call it something else. Hang on.
I don't know how they call it, but mental illness. It could be anxiety, bipolar. It could be autism. It could be anything, but it's helping them. And in the work environment, imagine how you can help those people in their job.
So they just call it like a neurodevelopmental disorder.
Okay.
For me, I just say it's a different brain. I'm like, just a different brain. I'm like, all brains are beautiful.
We have a unique brain.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah. I know you don't like the word different.
And it's helping them.
Yeah.
I love the unique word. So, yeah. So it's helping them a lot. So in the work environment,
mm-hmm.
imagine if you know all those people, like somebody with autism, but you know their process
mm-hmm.
and you respect their process, they have a lot less stress.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. It's true. And then there's a lot of people that are also ADHD and autism combined. I've met quite a few of them as well. But then there's also mental illness, and then there's personality disorders. There's lots of different things that stem from it. But we don't want to disregard who they are and what they can bring to the table because of these different aspects of their brain, or their unique brainness, as you'd like to say. So tell me something before I wrap you up. Why don't you like the word different? Is different because you're treated differently?
It's a negative world. It's negative. In life, you have positive and negative. There's always a right. Like when you talk about, I don't like when people say, what are your weakness?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, nobody has weakness.
Mm-hmm.
The weakness is that we're using your strength
mm-hmm.
at the wrong time in the wrong situation.
It's true. I tell that to everybody.
Nobody has weakness.
I tell everybody that. I'm like, whatever your big greatest strength is also your weakness. It depends on how it's utilized towards you.
Yeah. So it's not a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
The weakness is not to use it at the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Like my strength in organization is adapting.
Mm-hmm.
So adapt means that I'm finding shortcuts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
That's my strength.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put me to create a project plan,
mm-hmm.
it's going to take me hours. I can do it. It's going to take me hours, and it won't be as well done as somebody who has the strength.
Mm-hmm.
So do I have a weakness to do project plans? No. If you have a project plan and you have 90 hours of deliverables, but you have 70 hours of capacity,
mm-hmm.
come to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look at it. It's going to take me 5 minutes to figure out how we will deliver 90 hours in 70 hours.
Okay.
That's my strength.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So that's why I don't like weakness.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a weakness like, I don't know, you're building something and there's a weakness because, you missed a piece of wood and you just did something. So there's a weakness on that chair. So just have the kids sit on that chair. No adult, there's a weakness there.
Yeah.
So different, we can say that an apple and a banana
mm-hmm.
are different.
Mm-hmm.
They're both fruits, but they're very different.
Mm-hmm.
We can say that a woman and a man
mm-hmm.
are different, but we're both humans.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But as individual, each of us, we are all different. There's nobody that's the same.
Yeah.
So if nobody is the same, then we can say we're unique.
Oh, yeah. Makes sense. I love that.
Makes sense.
So how do people get a hold of you, Sonia?
Well, they can reach me through LinkedIn.
Okay.
We can give that, I imagine, in the bottom of the post at some place.
Well, I'll tag you in LinkedIn. Yeah, I'll tag.
Yes. And spcte.com, also French and English website. They can reach us that way.
Okay. Sorry, I had to come out of screen for a second. My kids are coming through the door here pretty quick and they'll be loud. Those crazy kids. Okay. Well, I'm going to make sure that I tag you on my socials. So if you have a TikTok, make sure you send it to me via email. Because I do little tiny parts for TikTok.
I don't have TikTok. We're only on LinkedIn.
That's okay.
And
then you'll see them all, and they'll have like all of the captions and whatnot. So it'll be good. So thank you so much for joining me today, Sonia. It was a pleasure it was a pleasure to speak with you. And I think that what you do is amazing, and we need to get it out there more, because I think there's more people that can benefit, not just employers, but families and other people too, especially people who have neurodivergencies and they need some more support and understanding, because a lot of people don't understand that. So I think this is a great model to utilize. Even people who are thinking about divorce, obviously, because it worked for you. So understanding your spouse better, right?
Yeah, we can do a workshop with couples that are great.
Maybe you need to, maybe you need to talk to some therapists and be like, hey, some divorce therapists and counselors.
Well, the thing is, therapists and psychiatrists don't even know about the 3 parts of the mind. They're not even using that.
Well, I'm sure they know about it, but whether or not they're utilizing it to their capacity is probably another story. So maybe there needs to be some more.
The thing is, it's there's so many regulations and laws and everything. So,
well, maybe there needs to be some more openings for like that type of merger to happen, where these things kind of come in, so people can have more understanding of themselves and others around them. So I agree with you, but thank you so much. And for those of you that want to find out more about Sonia, you can find me on LinkedIn under Lisa McGrath and lpmenterprises.net. And if you have any questions or concerns, or you just want to have some comments or come on my show, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, Lisa at lpmenterprises.net. As always, I love being with you guys. So take it easy. Have a wonderful day and don't do anything crazy.